Three, two, one. And we are in the room with Vanessa Maria.
Vanessa
So,
Maria!
so
Sorry.
Vanessa, what do you say?
I'm good. What are you saying? How are you doing?
I'm good, I'm good. What are the best things you've been doing to keep peace of mind during this crazy lockdown?
Do you know what? I think the best thing I've done is reading. I've read 2 books, which might not seem like a lot to anyone, but I haven't read a book since since like I was in year 8, which is no word of a lie. I didn't read, like I did like spark notes throughout university and all that. So yeah, I've actually read 2 full books, and they changed my life. Very, very good ones. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, um, Deepak Chopra, and then I've got the books here actually. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Very sick. I've gone on like a spiritual journey of enlightenment, so that's what we're doing.
I like that. I like that. I feel like, yeah, I've been on a bit of that path as well. But not with books. I'm not reading. I can't. I'm just so like my attention span is just disappeared.
Oh,
Like, but tell me about those books.
do you know what? The books are just sick. Like they're basically ways of harnessing the powers of the universe to benefit you in your life and like what you want to acquire, like what you desire. So it's very much like for like enlightenment, but also if you're like quite a career-minded person, which I am, they're really good in like grounding yourself and like making sure that you have a solid foundation for then like your career or your ambitions to come into play. So it talks a lot about knowing yourself, like self-knowledge, having principles that you live your life by in order to get what you want. For example, making sure that you like you give what you want to receive. So that kind of law, and it's just like it's just changed my mindset. And like I think a lot of the time when you're in that grind mode, when you're like, nah, I'm gonna go get it, I'm gonna go win, you forget to take care of yourself and you forget to reel it back in and look at the bigger picture. Like, what do you actually want and what are you trying to achieve? And those books have helped me do that, because it really tells you that whatever you really truly desire you can get. So you need to figure out with clarity what it is, because sometimes you think that you want something and you actually don't. So it's given me like clarity in my life, which is really nice. Peace of mind.
That sounds a little bit like the law of attraction you're talking about there.
Yeah, definitely comes into play. Like it feeds into that. So the law of attraction, like everyone knows about it. I mean, I think most people know about it, but like asking for something, believing in it, and then acting as if it's happened, and like detaching from the results of what you want, which is really important. And the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success like taps into that, because it looks at meditation. Like it focuses a lot on meditation, because that is supposedly the best way to like know yourself, just in the state of like being still and like resting, which I didn't do ever. So I've learned like a whole new skill. And yeah, it talks about like going into like a meditative state, being clear on your intentions and desires from life, and leaving them in a space where you don't stress about it afterwards, that you put your intentions out into the universe and then you lock it off. And that's the best way to sort of navigate life. I feel like I'm like a preacher.
No, that's beautiful. That's really nice to hear, because like, yeah, like coincidentally, I only came across the law of attraction fairly recently, and via a book called The Secret, and there's a documentary on Netflix that yeah, and that was I'd never like, it was like I kind of knew of the stuff they were talking about in the back of my mind, but then when I actually saw it, I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of put 2 and 2 together, and it just started making sense to me. But I think like what's really interesting is that, even because I get that it can all feel a little bit left field and a little bit like away with the fairies, all of that stuff, But I think there is actually quite a solid like logic to, yeah, basic things like meditation, figuring out what you truly want, having more clarity of mind will naturally enable you to attract more positive things into your life, right?
Oh, 100%. I think the biggest thing when I don't know if you've watched the documentary in The Secret. It's a bit aged. It's a bit like old school. But what really like caught me is when I think someone said that the law of attraction is infallible. So it's like gravity. Either it exists, whether you like it or not, whether you believe in it or not, and you can choose whether you're going to tap into it and use it to benefit you. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. Like, why would you not try to give it a go if it's happening anyway? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what you were saying, but I think it can feel a little bit cringy as well when you talk about it. Like, people are like, oh, manifestation. Have you made sure you have your affirmations today? It's a little bit, you know, but why is it easier to self-deprecate than to make like to have affirmation? Like, it's nonsense really. So
Yeah. And I think probably one of the most difficult things with it is, and they say this in the documentary as well, is that it's very difficult to know what you want. So I think part of being able to like utilize The Secret and the law of attraction the best way like requires meditation, just to get your mind in a state where you can actually think clearly about what you want to do with your life, if you know what I mean.
Like knowing what you want to do is the most important thing, I think, because the how is not important. You'll make it happen. If you really want to do it, it will just work. It will work out. And finding that what is important. And I also feel like it evolves over time. Like, the more things you do, like the more things that you find out that you don't like, your what changes with perspective and insight. So I feel like my what has definitely changed, because I feel like I came into like the whole game, like entertainment industry and all that. But I'm just gonna be a presenter. I'm just gonna like, do you know what I mean? That kind of didn't really have vision. And now I feel like I've completely, I've come like I've just changed like the final vision. So it's been a nice process.
It's a pretty intense industry as well, right? So if you don't have peace of mind, like you need it's because even I mean, and yeah, I haven't been in it that long, but like there's a certain level of kind of stress and energy with it that like you need to be able to navigate, like otherwise you might you'll go left. But yeah, do you think that kind of thinking has really helped your kind of your own mental health? Because I know for me, thinking that way, it was suddenly like a little bit of a light bulb in my mind. I was like acknowledging that actually negative thoughts are kind of like there's an energy in them, innit? So it's like, why invest the energy in that and not be trying to invest energy in the opposite, like positive thoughts?
100%. Because it was a light bulb moment for me as well. Because I was like, all the energy I'm putting in to like saying that I can't do it, like what the hell? If I just put it into saying I can, like how easy would it be? So that was a moment. And yeah, like I feel like going back to what you were saying about the industry that we're in, and like, because I'm like in music as well, I was talking to my friend about this the other day, because we were like, it's like the craziest industry, and like you don't really realize it until you get into it, and then you have a moment where you have like a moment where you can like kind of stick your head out again, because you can get like tunnel vision. And it's just, I don't think there's any other industry where you'll have so many people who you consider friends, but like you actually don't know them. And I was telling my friend, I was like, it's so strange. It's like you'll have like 30, 50 people that you're just like, yeah, those are my bedrooms, those are my boys. You actually don't know them. Do you know what I mean? And with that comes, snakery, betrayal, distrust. There's a whole and the DJ game, the music game is rife. And I've only stuck my toe in the other day, and I feel like I've been taking L's. I can't lie. So these books and like that kind of thinking has really helped. And I feel like there's a reason. Sorry, I'm getting notifications. There's a reason why like I was drawn to them, because I feel like you have to be in a certain mindset when you're like, nah, I need to now get some spiritual enlightenment because it's too much.
And is this this break, this pandemic, actually like allowed for a little bit of a breathing space from it all for you?
100%. It came up. I know it sounds weird, but it came at the perfect time. It came at like I really needed the time, man. Like as you were talking about your mental health and stuff. Like I feel like I was definitely going into a rut of like my schedule was crazy. I was working full time, so I was doing 10 to 6, and then at 6 I would go to the cafe and work there until like 11:30. Then I'd come home and then I'd mix until like 3 o'clock in the morning, just like practicing. So, and I was doing that, I kid you not, for like a month and a half. Like it was mad. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then every weekend I'll be doing up Bristol, I'll be going up to Manchester. One weekend I did London, Bristol, Manchester in one week. One weekend, yeah. And it was too much. And I was making, I think when you're in that state as well, like the tunnel vision state, sometimes you make silly silly choices and bad decisions. So it was just a time where the lockdown let me like breathe. So it was nice.
Yeah, and that stuff's, you know, it's not great for physical health either, really, you know?
No, it's not good. Not good at all. I was, yeah, like I was hardly eating. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing, because you're so on job.
Yeah. And like, yeah, strangely enough for me, like I seem to get, for whatever reason, I've been lucky enough to kind of realize that I actually kind of get more productive when I have periods of not doing much, you know, like when I'm having the time out, like I'll get the inspiration to maybe enter the tunnel vision kind of mode, but then the tunnel vision mode is like had prior to it this like time of like meditation, do you know what I mean? So you're entering it with a bit more kind of peace of mind, I think. But yeah, I think this pandemic's crazy, and I think like, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see like what the mental health effects are on people, because yeah, I mean the virus is bad for sure, but like what, you know, with like, the economy and everything, like I mean it's going to affect people bad, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, there's only, yeah, it's gonna have a negative outcome, 100%. It's already had you know, catastrophic effects for like the most vulnerable members of our society anyway. So once we start coming out, it's gonna, I'm concerned, like, because there's not, I can't see how the support system that the government's putting in place is sufficient. Do you know what I mean? It's just not substandard.
And it's tricky as well, because because in relation to like the law of attraction and the stuff you were talking about in the books, it's like it's very interesting balancing like the external and the internal, right? Because, you know, this pandemic is out of our control and it's clearly quite a crazy thing that has the potential to impact us negatively. But like, you know, The Secret and stuff will tell you that it's more important how you perceive it, right? So it's like, I'd be interested to hear how you've been like coping through this, because yeah, it is clearly quite, like, I know when it first happened, I was like, shit, like, you know, all the secret stuff feels like it goes out the window. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a time where I've definitely come back to principles of the universe and stuff like The Secret, just because I feel like for me, I realized that everything is just a mental game. Like everything is really just in your mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if you can sort of overcome it, like mentally, I feel like everything else will follow. And I know it sounds weird, but every time, like in the beginning, you know, when everyone in the beginning was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna be locked up!" Like Jesus, like when I was in that, oh my God, the locked up stage. I just remembered like Nelson Mandela, yeah, and I was like, "Yo, this guy was in prison, yeah. This guy's in prison. He stayed sane, yeah. He was polite. He like, do you know what I mean? There's so many things that he patterned while he was in the cell, and I was like, I can go on walks. I can leave my yard. I was like, this is light work. Do you know what I mean? I was like, this is actually light work, and I think it's because for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, I was so like obsessed with just doing stuff and like getting shit done, and like being on job, and like I was on social media, so there's like that, and you're just so used to being stimulated, not in that, you know, in that way, and I was from all different like angles, like technology, from family and friends. You're socializing, you're going for a drink with your friends at work, then you meet your other friends, you're going out, blah. Like all of that was, I'm so used to like that lifestyle that I didn't realize that I wasn't spending time with myself ultimately. And that was like the most important thing. And I think finding comfort in yourself is something that we don't get taught when we're growing up. And this lockdown kind of forced everyone to if they wanted to, make peace with themselves and like really look in the mirror and think like, who am I? Like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? How do I become the person that I want to be if I'm not where I am? And be comfortable in your own skin. Because if you're comfortable in your own skin and you're comfortable in your own solitude, lockdown is not really a problem. Obviously, I'm not saying like if you've experienced loss or anything like that, a different story, but the general concept of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, yeah, man, keeping that internal sort of peace strong is so important, because if you can master that, then nothing external can affect you in a bad way, really. And yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think, you know, that we've got a lot to be lucky for as well, in the sense that like our lockdown was fairly like easy from the start, in terms of like we could go out and whatever, and exercise. Whereas like I spoke to a French dude the other day, and he, you know, they had to have like papers signed to go out and things like that. And like, that's crazy. But yeah, I think, yeah, you've done some like really interesting work like in the past on like mental health and stuff, and it'd be really interesting to hear just a little bit about, yeah, your experiences, like as I suppose a mental health activist in some ways. Like you were the mental health officer at Bristol Uni, right? Was that the job title?
It was the student living officer.
Okay, cool. And yeah, like it'd be really interesting to hear like how you found that role, and what were some of the kind of most common things you came across in that. And obviously Bristol being a uni that has had a big problem with mental health over the years.
So how I what's the question? How I've managed it, or
Yeah, how you managed it, and what kind of things you came across during that role.
oh yeah, so I think that role was really challenging, particularly challenging, just because I was straight out of uni, and I went into like a emotionally draining job, like straight off the bat with like little training. So I think ultimately it was a role where I had autonomy, and I could create campaigns and content and have an impact in terms of like changes to policies and structures and stuff in the student body at the University of Bristol. And I feel like working in mental health is a weird one. It's a weird one. Oh, I can hear myself. It's a weird one because you put so much effort into it, and you hardly ever think about your own mental health. If that makes sense. You spend 12 hours of the day thinking about how you can improve the mental health of other people, and you literally have no time for yourself. So my experience in it was really difficult. Like it was the hardest job I've ever had to do, and there was a lot of like struggles in terms of the disconnect between the university and the union who I was working for, and actually dealing with people like offloading their mental health problems onto me, because I'm not a trained professional. So I was like a therapist at the same time and an activist. So that was very, very difficult. But it was, as I said, it was like rewarding. So I managed to produce a documentary on Black students' mental health, which was great. We've implemented loads of changes in policies while I was there. We also got the university to link up with an external mental health organization, which is specialized in the mental health of people of color. So that was great. And at the moment, I'm also lecturing at the London Metropolitan University. I'm doing like online webinars for their students based on like self-care and confidence. So
I went there, you know.
Did you?
Yeah. I went there for a year.
Oh, okay. What were you doing there?
I was doing international relations and politics before I moved to Bristol. Yeah, it's a cool uni. Like, I mean, it's obviously, it's like, in terms of it actually gets a demographic of people who probably like are almost more grateful for the education. Do you know what I mean? And who might not be able to access it otherwise. I think it's important because it allows, if you're a Londoner, you get a lot of people who are London based going there, and they can still live from home without it being too expensive and stuff. But it's really interesting. That stress of having to deal with your own mental health while looking after other people, and then big ups for pushing through the people of color stuff as well, and acknowledging the nuances there, because that's a deep thing. I think obviously there's already a stigma around mental health in like the black and brown communities anyway, but what's really interesting as well, and just because in a few people I talk, like talking to Yannick and stuff, I think one of the key things is probably getting more mental health practitioners from diverse backgrounds, right? Because it's like, if me and you wants to go to see someone about our mental health, it's a little bit difficult engaging with, say, a white person who might not understand all of like the cultural baggage of being from a different ethnicity. Having said that, it's perhaps it should be part of the job description if you're a mental health practitioner to be able to have that depth of knowledge of cultural backgrounds and stuff. I don't know. What do you kind of think in that scenario?
I think both. I think counsellors and mental health experts and practitioners, they need to be they need to be trained in cultural differences. You need to have cultural sensitivity training, and you need to understand that different people have different backgrounds, and the advice that you give needs to be catered to the person that you're talking to, which seems so basic, and people might hear this and be like, well, obviously, and it's like, trust me, trust me, you don't know. For example, like someone might just therapist might innocently say, well, why don't you, talk to your parents about not wanting to change your course if that's really, affecting you in university. And it's like, if you have ethnic parents, you come from a background of ethnic parenting, like you can't just be like to your parents, yo, I'm not going to be a doctor anymore, mom, I'm going to be a rapper. Like, what? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it don't run like that. So it might work for someone else, but you've got to be very aware of those kind of things. And then obviously we just do need more people of color in mental health in all areas. Like, there's just not enough people. The representation is very poor, especially for counselors and like psychiatrists, and generally the most important jobs, or not the most important, but the ones that are actually fighting mental health conditions, like directly, if that makes sense. Don't know if that's the best way to put it, but there is a thing of needing to feel understood and seen in order to sort of open up. Because why would I talk to someone who I feel wouldn't understand my experience as a Black woman? Like, it doesn't make sense. And why would you want to talk about your mental health issues on top of explaining and trying to educate someone on your experiences as a person of color? It's just too much. So it's very basic. We just need more Black people in the building.
Yeah. And how do you navigate, because like mental health is obviously a sensitive topic, and it does affect people of all genders and ethnicities and whatnot, how do you kind of navigate that dialogue about like representation and diversity without it kind of feeling like it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's like, without kind of detracting from the fact that, sort of all people have their own mental health issues, right? And this isn't just like about giving special treatment to one group, etc. How have you like navigated that as you've been kind of in those circles and whatnot?
In universities or just in general, just
I guess in general as well, yeah.
It's just letting people know, like it's about education, really, like educating people on the fact that different groups and different, especially marginalized groups in society, have different needs, and it comes down to the different experiences that groups have. For example, the Black experience is unique to Black people, and you have that experience on top of all the other experiences that human beings can have, right? So everyone experiences mental health issues at one point or another. But as Black people, we have the Black experience on top of mental health issues. So those are going to cross over. So there's going to be a unique Black mental health issue that we would experience. And I think it's just breaking it down to people who might not be aware that this is something that you need to be aware of. And it's not about doing more for a certain group of people. It's about catering to groups of people in the correct way. So one group might need X, Y, Z, and another group might need ABC. Like, do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. It's just catering and giving adequate, sufficient care to those who need it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think you're right. Yeah, and it doesn't help when you get the sort of identity politics trolls shouting people down for no good reason when it comes to this stuff. And I think you're someone who's like been able to like just navigate that conversation very well. I don't know if it's because, I mean, I think maybe sometimes being of like mixed origin, like we both are, maybe gives you like an ability to kind of, or like, I don't know, maybe like be able to kind of attack the conversation just from a perspective where, one, you're a little bit more accepted because you're lighter skinned by like white society, and also because you can kind of maybe see a little bit more clearly that there are different groups that need different needs. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it is interesting because like when we did that identity politics event a couple of years ago, you like had a bit like, you were solid, like you had your facts, like you came with the fire, and yeah, I think you made a very interesting point about free speech and stuff and freedom of speech. And one of the things that stuck out to me at that event was when you kind of said that, I think it was like you said, there's a civilized level of free speech, and it's like, it's not about people not being able to say things, it's about, if you say certain things, there will be consequences, right? And yeah, that was just a great point, I think, that you made. You haven't had to take any shit from the identity politics trolls of late, have you?
I haven't at all. I think no, not at all. I didn't get any negative feedback really. People, I mean, it wasn't really like. I feel like if it was like live streamed or something, then you'll have the keyboard warriors. But no, not at all. I haven't had to like battle anyone. And in fact, I haven't done too many like, I don't like political talks, if that makes sense, for a while, because I've been very focused on music and that kind of side of things. So it's only been like since the lockdown when I had some clarity in my mind of like, what do I actually like want to do now? I think I realized that I want to push just well-being and like mental health advocacy, but within the realm of music and media and beyond. So bringing those two things together. So potentially in the future, I will have some trolls on me back because Vanessa Maria is back on the game. I'm going to be bouncing with some fire statements, but for now, I'm good.
Yeah, you got to let the haters be the motivators.
Listen.
What's it like navigating then from like the uni experience of mental health to like music and media and stuff? Because I guess that's a different ballpark.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I went from being a student living officer to working on Dragon's Den at the BBC and DJing. So it is very different. I think, do you know what? One experience that I had, this is going to be an anecdote. Yeah, do you know I can share it, whatever. And this experience sums up how different those two worlds are. And yeah, so basically, let's throw it back to how old was I? I just started the student living job, so 2 years ago. And I went to see one of my favorite artists perform in Bristol. And one thing turns to another, I'll end up going to the after party now. So in the after party, I think we're in like, what is it, the Marriott or something, like a very nice hotel in the after party. And I'm just chatting to the artist. I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, oh, because this artist is, I'm not gonna bait any names out, but this is a very, very big artist. And I was just talking to him, blah, blah, blah. And he asked me what I do for a job. And I think if someone had a little bit of sense, they would have just made something small up. I don't know. But I was like, oh, I'm a student living officer at Bristol University. And he was like, sorry, what? And I was like, yes, I am responsible for making sure the mental health of the students is adequate. Actually, yeah, that's my job. He was like, are you a snitch? He was like, you're a snitch, so you're snitching and whatnot. And basically, I got kicked out. Like, it was like that kind of thing of just like.
Why did you get kicked out?
Do you know what? It was like a mixture of like, there was a lot that went down, and I got kicked out, but also I need to leave, and there was a lot going on. But I think that puts it into perspective. It's like you're trying to talk about something that is very academic in some sense and political, which can often be seen as very unsexy and like unattractive, especially in the world of media and music, where image is what basically sells, and image is what attracts people in, and that's what's going to make you money. So a lot of the time, trying to mix those two messages together, it's quite difficult, because the people who probably need to hear those messages the most are the people who are like listening to or engaging or being bought into an image which is like the opposite of health and well-being and care, and I, have like 100,000 hoes, and all I do is smoke weed every day, and like all of that kind of thing. So it's difficult because people don't take you seriously, but at the same time it's rewarding because it actually needs to happen. Because I don't want to speak too much anymore, but mental health in the music industry is one of the biggest issues, in my opinion, at the moment. Like, how many rappers have passed away in this year alone? It's crazy. So there's a massive problem with, and that goes hand in hand with drug abuse. So it's needed.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. Yeah, like it's definitely an industry that definitely breeds like sort of bad mental health, and the problem is because it's cool as well, right? And that's, I think, what you're talking about there touches into that, like, because there's something cool about not giving a fuck, and doing loads of drugs, dealing with your pain with drugs, yeah. And a lot of these rappers and musicians brag about that, brag about the way they deal with their pain is through drugs and not living a healthy life. So it's worrying as well for what kind of like ramifications does that have on young people who listen to that kind of music and whatever as well.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna get kicked out of the party. Do you know what I'm saying? I was like, kick me out, bro. Just do it. Kick me out. I'll see you at the Grammys.
I know who that was as well, because I remember you told me at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, the full story is a bit mad. Like, the full story is I think what it is.
I don't rate that rapper.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if you've seen, there's been exposure that came out about him. Like, really? Someone, yeah, his ex-girlfriend, like, it went viral, abuser. Obviously, I'm not, that's a bit mean, but like, I mean, I kind of.
Can we name drop? I feel like you have to be aired out, fam.
I don't know. I feel like people can put two and two together, because I don't want to. You need to understand, yeah. No, I don't think we should.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
the game's the game. The game's the game. But if anyone is a bit, smart, they can work it out. But yeah, it's interesting because I remember coming back from the experience and thinking like, oh, like that was so sick, that was so cool. But really, like when I look back at it now, I'm like, that was just like ridiculous. Like that was just absolutely just. It was. I don't regret it, but I'm like, I'm glad I did it. But I've got insight, and I'm like, whew, it's not anywhere where I'd end up now, if that makes sense. Like, it just never would happen.
Yeah, I think you have to be able to know, because that's the thing. Obviously, the industry looks very glamorous from the outside as well, and I think,
Exactly.
and we're in this like clout obsessed like social media era, so it's like it's very important to realize that if that kind of setting is like, letting off the red flags and the alarm bells, like, nah, this isn't my vibe, the energy's wrong here, you kind of got to know to get out and still be able to carve your own lane, and like, and I'm sure like, you, from what you've already done, like you're already kind of in your own lane anyway. So I think you'd hope for the future people adopt that, and you're seeing that anyway with media as well. There is this kind of strange shift away from the mainstream, and things are becoming more independent in a way. And yeah, you do wonder if actually like part of like resisting all like the fuckery that comes with like the glamour of what we think is the media industry will kind of slowly like dissipate as things all become a bit more spread out and democratized. Like what values do celebrities have right now during this lockdown? It's a bit deep really in a way, like.
Have you seen the video where they're singing whatever that song, the John? That was so bad. I was like, listen, and at the end of the video, yeah, there wasn't even a link to like go and like give money to charity. It was literally just a video of celebrity singing. What the fuck? Yeah, it's
mad cringe that. But that's the thing as well, and when you get addicted to attention, right, then you're going to just want to keep getting it at any cost. And I think that's what social media has done. It's almost created, like, we're addicted to social media, right? But there's also, if you scratch the surface, it's actually an addiction to kind of attention as well. It's like there's just this.
Yeah, I think it's deeper than attention. It's validation, and that is really what people are searching for, because you can get attention, but is someone liking it? Is someone commenting on your post? You know what I mean? Is someone validating who I am? Like,
yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's like, there was this comedian who did like a cool little sketch about it, and said that we're like almost in a world run by clout. It's like the President Trump kind of got to where he is because of clout in a way, like because of being outrageous and doing dumb shit. And then you get, people like Takeshi 6ix9ine, who's just like completely outrageous and stuff. And he gets more attention because of how outrageous he is, and yeah, it's crazy how like, yeah, but I see what you're saying as well. It's like actually there's a validation element in it as well, but it's almost like people are attributing the validation to the attention in a way, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's crazy, and you got to be careful in that industry, Vanessa, please.
I know. Do you know what this man? You're like honestly like the 10th or 12th person who said that to me in the last like 2 months or something. People are like, oh, Vanessa, like, just to go. I'm like, yeah. Do you know what? It is because you do find yourself like slipping like down the slope. Like, I can't lie. Sometimes you're like, oh, raw. Like, you are just addicted to the social media aspect, and like I think as your platform grows and stuff, it becomes really it does become a bit too much sometimes, and you've got to remember and remind yourself like of like what you actually are trying to achieve, and like what you actually want to do. And for me, it's always been like, it's not about me, if that makes sense. It's about the bigger picture, like what I'm trying to achieve. And I think I realized that in lockdown. I was like, actually, what I'm trying to do is advocate within an industry that hasn't got like mental health like precautions in place. I want to share like music from people who are underrated. Do you know what I mean? It's that, and I need to remember that. And I think that's how you stay humble in the industry, and like you got to have a message and a reason behind what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to get lost. And you're also going to get stuck. I think you are going to get stuck because you're going to get to a point where you're like, I've done it all. Do you know what I mean? Like I've reached the top. I've done the magazines, I've done the TV, I've done whatever. But if you have a message, if there's something that you're trying to push, then like your job is never done. You can never do enough advocacy work. Like, come on, you can always do more. So I think it's important to have that because that will drive you.
Yeah, and I'm a believer as well that, you know, industries like that need good people in them as well. So I think that's an important thing and an important place that you can have there. So are you still working now, or like on like, or is it a furlough vibe? Because I know the TV and film industry is fucked right now.
It's mad. I'm very lucky. I actually got a lot of time off. I think I got like a month off work, which has been really nice at the BBC. And then my contract is being extended. So I'm on like a creative access scheme. So we're going to move on to different productions. And so I don't really know what production I'm going to be on or what I'm working on. I'm going to try and get some like radio work in, but that won't be until June. And then I'm working for London Met as well, London Met University. So I'm doing like their wellbeing stuff, and I have to just see my options because they want me to work for them. So I'm like, So it's been a weird situation because I've actually have options because I was really freaking out. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be unemployed. But like in terms of like jobs and stuff, like I'm good, and I feel like I've got the media and the mental health stuff to work on. And then I'm doing a lot of like independent projects at the moment. I've got a really exciting project coming out with Notion magazine. I can't say too much about it, but it's very, very, very exciting, very, very cool. Doing a lot of DJ stuff, like mixes, and writing a few articles. But yeah, apart from that, just I've gone back in. As you can hear, I've gone back into the tunnel vision mode. You know, I had my like 3 days of rest, and I was like, right.
Yeah, I hear you. No, that's good to hear though. It's good to know you're active. And yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's just important during this time. Just your mind's got to stay as open as possible, I guess, because you know, I mean, we're in a fucking pandemic, man. What the fuck, like?
Do you know? I feel I'm so used to it, and I'm like, yeah, but like, this is gonna be so nuts. Like, and I keep telling everyone when we have kids, yeah, we need to like actually big it up to a mad degree. Like there was police and military on the streets. We weren't even allowed to leave for like 1 second. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we have to just make it into a World War fucking 3. Like, you know.
Yeah.
A crazy moment.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Fucking
if it ever ends, that is.
Oh yeah, there's predictions, aren't there?
It'd be all right. But it is crazy how quickly it becomes normalized and stuff like that's weird. But yeah, no, I'm hopeful that it all ends. It ends very soon. But yeah, thank you so much for talking to me. It's fun. It's always nice talking to you. And yeah, best of luck with everything. Keep smiling.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry, I had a moment there.
No worries. See you later, mate.
Yeah, that's over. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Just give me all the compliments. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I wish you all the best with like the podcast and everything like that as well.
Thank you. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. Cool. All right. Take care of yourself. Yeah.
You too.